So most weeks I usually end up wasting more time coming up with lame excuses for why I haven't actually bothered to write a decent intro for this show than it would actually take to just write a decent intro for this show. But this week I haven't even had time to come up with a lame excuse for not writing an intro because every sod and his dog has launched a new smartphone, a tablet, a watch, whatever, all kinds of shiny gizmos, and frankly keeping up with it has been an absolute nightmare to the point where my brains now feel like they're leaking out of my So loads of shiny tech shenanigans to talk about, so enough of my jabber, jingle me.
Techspert Weekly.
So Samsung did a thing this week where it talked about some new technology stuff that you'll soon be able to buy in stores if you haven't already spunked all of your spare cash on whiskey, and some mothers do have them box sets to get through yet another shitty pants year. If you like bendy phones or smartwatches, then basically Galaxy Unpacked on Wednesday would have been just like Christmas for you. Except for that one Christmas where Santa clambered into your bed, pressed a chubby palm over your mouth and breathed his hot whiskey breath straight into your eyeballs before telling you what a very good boy you've been. And then it all gets a bit hazy, but every Christmas after that, you definitely never went to bed without your trusty switchblade tucked underneath your pillow. Just me on that one then? On the wearables front, you've got the fresh new compact Galaxy Watch 4, which comes in 40 or 44mm sizes and starts from £259, not a bad price at all. Richer folk can upgrade to the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, which boasts stainless steel instead of an aluminium casing, while also expanding the size to 42 or 46mm and also adding one of those lovely twisty bezels. But either way, you'll be treated to a Super AMOLED screen, nippy performance, a reported 40 hours of battery life, and that fresh Wear OS experience crafted in collaboration with Google. And because I love you so very much, I've done you a full hands-on comparison of the two right here on TechSperts. Go check that out for all you need to know. And Samsung also took the opportunity in its massive Unpacked event to launch its new Galaxy Buds 2 True Wireless Earbuds, as well as two new bendy blowers. First up was the Z Flip 3, which serves up an enlarged 1.9-inch external screen, as well as fresh Gorilla Glass Victus design, an IPX8 water resistance, plus a dual-lens rear camera and a 10-megapixel selfie shooter. If you'd rather wield something much more brick-like, then there's always the Z Fold 3, which weighs in at a beefy 271 grams. Up front, you've got a 6.2-inch 120Hz AMOLED 2X screen, but spread the fold wide open and you'll expose a mighty 7.6-inch panel, once again a 120Hz AMOLED 2X effort. Like the Flip, you've got Gorilla Glass Victus and IPX8 water resistance, but here those rear cameras are joined by a third telephoto shooter. Not enough cameras for you? Well, not a problem. You've also got a 10-megapixel cover camera around front, plus a fifth camera lens actually secreted away underneath that massive internal screen. Still not enough cameras for you? Well, tough, because that's already pretty ridiculous right there. And because I'm not already busy enough, hopefully I'll bring you full reviews of a lot of that shiny stuff very shortly. Now also this week, Xiaomi tried its darndest to steal a little bit of that Samsung thunder by effectively transforming into a tech launch Gatling gun, firing out shagloads of shiny new gizmos at the kind of rate that had most tech journalists wilting over their keyboards. Among the launches was the super-powered Mix 4 with yet another under-display selfie cam, this time a 20-megapixel shooter housed inside of a 6.67-inch OLED panel. Under that bonnet, you'll find the Snapdragon 888 Plus chipset, as well as a battery supporting 120-watt wired and 50-watt wireless charging. As if that wasn't enough, Xiaomi also launched the premium Pad 5 tablet, a 2K gaming monitor, a Galaxy Buds 2 competitor called the Redmi Buds 3 Pro, a new electric scooter thingy, a smart air fryer, and a bio-inspired quadruped robot. They actually did it. They made a cyber dog straight out of Black Mirror. Just as we were starting to emerge from our homes at long last and feel the sun on our skin again, bollocks. Next up, Honor decided it also wanted a bit of that smartphone launch action by spaffing out its new Magic 3 flagship family, and just like Samsung, it started crushing the names and numbers of its products together in a most displeasing manner. Seriously, what is going on here? Is everyone just getting really fucking lazy? Or is it some criminal mastermind deliberately sabotaging the space keys on all of their laptops? Or I mean, it's this kind of thing that drives me to drink right here. And yeah, sure, okay, it doesn't take much these days. If I find a grey hair sprouting out of my nostril, or I stub my toe a bit, or I just accidentally remember that James Corden is still a thing, that's more than enough to put a whiskey glass firmly in my hand. But still, just stop it! Anyway, the Magic 3 series consists of 3 new smartphones, a Lite model, a Pro version, and a Pro Plus. All 3 sport a curved OLED screen, stereo speakers, a 4600 mAh battery, and the Magic UI 5 launcher with a new ecological slant, including themes based on endangered animals that remind you on a daily basis how humans have basically f***ed the entire world sideways, and now stuff like polar bears are almost dead, and it's all your fault for liking things like deodorant, and cars, and fridges, and frankly, you all make me sick. And yeah, as you'd probably expect, that Pro Plus model does cost a shagload more than the standard model, but for that extra cash you do get a lovely ceramic finish, plus upgraded camera tech, including a bigger Sony sensor for the 50 megapixel primary shooter, and a better 64 megapixel ultra-wide angle snapper. And yeah, I am kind of cheating a bit just by reading this straight off of my smartphone screen, but honestly, there's been so many new phones this week, which in turn has forced me to consume so much extra whiskey that I just can't keep all of these numbers and facts swilling around up in that skull of mine. Meanwhile, the Lite model strips out superfluous features like the 50-watt wireless charging that you'll find on the standard Magic 3, and also the 64 megapixel telephoto lens to suit those who are a bit more skint. And apparently, according to Honor, that Pro Plus model is winging its merry way over here to Techspert Towers right now as I speak, so hopefully I'll have a proper fondle of that for you soon. Also this week, Sony apparently bought out Crunchyroll, which hopefully means that in the future Xperia smartphones will come preloaded with tons of geeky anime goodness. No word so far if there'll be any changes to subscription prices or content or anything, but hopefully it'll all basically remain the same. And to be honest, that's about all the tech news that I can stand about now. So regrettably, it's time for the part of the show that would probably have most polar bears leaping willingly into the propeller blades of the nearest barge. It's viewer comments. Way.
Fewer comments.
So let's start up this week with Danny, who says, "You're allowed to take time off, no need to apologise." Yeah, I mean, cheers, buddy. But I do hate to miss a Techspert Weekly. It is actually one of the joys, one of the highlights of my week, reading all of these lovely comments. And that was mostly genuine and heartfelt, only a tiny bit of sarcasm there. Although what I said right now also sounded incredibly sarcastic, and in fact it wasn't. It's just been a really long week, sorry. Next up, Jaded Peanut Butter says, "If they need a Dobby for a Mortal Kombat video, now's your chance to get into video games." What was I just saying about the highlight of my week being these bloody comments? Mr. Peanut Butter, are you likening my appearance to a bald, big-eared, short-arsed troll thing? Because if you are, there's not really much I can do about it, and it's fairly accurate, so fair play. Next up, sorry, no chance of pronouncing this right, Pavi Chokche says, "What do you think about when spinning the phones for the B-roll? You always look so peaceful." I mean, honestly, I'm usually just thinking, don't drop the bastards, don't drop the bastards. Especially now that most phones are made of glass, which is slippery as hell. It used to be a hell of a lot easier doing that when they were all plastic or made of metal. Next up, Abir, talking about the Nokia 6310 feature phone, which we covered in last week's show, says, "It's got 2 megabytes of RAM and a 3 megapixel camera. Even Flappy Bird would be like, screw this device, I'ma delete myself." Good old Flappy Bird. I've forgotten all about Flappy Bird. Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to that sodding. Was it like a teenager, wasn't it, who came up with it and then made like $1 billion gajillion overnight and then was probably retired to an island somewhere. But you still get versions of Flappy Bird cropping up in actual arcades as well, which absolutely blows my stupid mind. It's like, it costs like £1 to play as well, which is probably more than the actual Flappy Bird cost to download back in the day. I should come up with a Mr. Wanksock game or something like that and make my fortune and then bugger right off. And next to Brandy says, if Samsung is making the chip, so Pixel 6's Tensor chip, which again we covered last week's show, hopefully it'll have the integrated AMD graphics that Samsung was working on. Yeah, that's the one that they were banging on about at a conference a couple of months ago or something, wasn't it? The one that could apparently bring like ray tracing style graphics to smartphones. Although, you know, you've got to wonder how many games, how many developers are actually going to take advantage of that technology and implement it in their titles. It'll probably be a bloody Flappy Bird 2, I guess. Next up, Adam says, even though I just bought a Galaxy S21 a couple of months back, I'm very excited for the Moto Edge 20 and the Pixel 6 lines. Just a glimpse of what the future holds for smartphones. Yeah, definitely. I'm especially intrigued by the Pixel 6 with this Tensor chipset to see exactly what kind of new features it brings, see how the performance compares with other rivals and everything as well. And of course, just this week alone, there's another half dozen smartphones launched. There's going to be a lot hitting the UK before the end of 2021. Certainly plenty to enjoy before Santa squeezes his fat arse down your chimney. But then on the flip side, Jowl Game & Show says none of these phones look good, best to go for a last year model or something. And yeah, fair enough. I mean, I am intrigued by some of the recent innovations like the Tensor chip, and the under-display selfie cam seems to be getting really popular again all of a sudden this week, despite the fact it was really crap on that Axon 20 ZTE phone. So we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, you can definitely get some great deals on last year's flagships right now. I keep seeing some good ones pop up for the Oppo Find X2 Pro. It's one of my favourite smartphones of last year as well. Great camera tech, still among the very best out there. Very sexy bit of vegan leather action. Next up, Amanda says, I can't wait for the Google Pixel 6 Pro. Depending on the reviews and the price, I'm thinking about getting one. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it does sound like the new Google Pixel smartphones are going to be about as affordable as a round in a London pub. And I mean, even Rick from Google said that they're going to be expensive. And that's coming from somebody on Google wages. So us common plebs are probably going to have to take the pliers to Granny's gold teeth as usual. Well, that's enough of the tech comments. Now we're back onto just general abuse. Neil says, man, you look like a combination of Johnny Sins and Danny D. I mean, I say abuse, I've got absolutely no idea who either of those people are. I'm assuming they're just other bald YouTubers. Hang on, let me do a Google of the Johnny Sins. Oh, hello. Okay, so apparently Johnny Sins is a porn star, which retrospectively is pretty obvious given his frickin' name. Yeah, some of the images that search threw up, yeah, they're going to be burned into the old brain box for quite some time. Okay, let's try and cleanse the palette by searching for this Danny D guy instead. Oh, sweet baby Jesus mother of... Okay, so yeah, he's another porn star. Walked face first into that one, didn't I? So basically I look like a combination of one porn star and another porn star. That's good to know, thank you. Next up, Chris says, I love it when nerds try to act cool. Oh, mate, I am hardcore nerd and super proud of it. Definitely never been one to hang with the cool crowd. You know, my school days were mostly doing custom PC builds and drinking Skull Lager with the rest of the dateless wonders of my year. Mizumi says, hoping to see a review of the Axon 30 at some point. Well, good news, it's apparently going to be winging its way over here next week, I believe they said. They were going to be shipping that one out, so hopefully have a full unboxing / review for you soon. Next up, AD says, could you review devices like the FX Tech Pro 1 and the Planet Computers Gemini? So the FX Tech Pro 1, that's the old school like PDA style phone with like the slide out keyboard and stuff, right? I've not heard of the other one, the Planet Computers Gemini. But yeah, no, certainly I can try and spread my wings that little bit further. Just even trying to keep up with all the mainstream stuff is an absolute frickin' ball ache these days, especially on weeks like this, where, you know, you've got like a dozen new frickin' phones launching. Definitely still working on that cloning machine. Next up, Howdas, sorry, again, crap at pronunciation, says, why are all these companies pushing for these insanely oversized cameras? I mean, it's basically a case of the fact that the bigger the camera sensor, generally the better the performance rate, the more light it can capture, and therefore, you know, produce brighter, sharper images. And of course, pixel binning is all the rage these days, which again requires a massive sensor to actually be effective. And then of course factor in the likes of periscope zooms, and all of a sudden, yeah, like the camera chassis is pretty much taken up the entire arse end of the smartphone. But at least things haven't quite got to the point yet where every smartphone is like that ridiculous, what was it called, the Samsung K zoom or the X zoom or something, where it was actually more of a camera than it was a friggin' phone. It was an absolute brick. Fitting that thing in your pants was no fun at all. All I can remember is stuffing that in my shorts and then walking around like I basically had a cactus rammed up my jacksie. But anyway, massively running out of time, so let's just do a couple more comments, then I'll have to bugger right off and, you know, actually start reviewing all these frickin' new phones that launched. As first up, Bishop Inskip says, it's becoming increasingly difficult separating the tech news from the graphic innuendo. It would all make sense if you were 13. Christ, I hope I haven't offended an actual real bishop with my stupid little knob gags, because that sure would suck, having an eternity of wee devil creatures jabbing your genitals with pitchforks just because of a few stupid your mum jokes in your crappy internet weekly tech show thing. So apologies, father. Do you call Bishop's father? I've got absolutely no idea. That shows how often I go to church. But yeah, if you can put in a word with the big lad upstairs, And, I'm mostly just, off my tits on whiskey when I'm doing these shows, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not in my right mind. The devil has liquored me up. Reckon that'll work? That'll probably work, right? Yeah. And last comment for the week, Channel GMC says, any ideas on what you're going to do for Techspert Weekly 100? Which is actually terrifyingly close now. We're almost 3/4 of the way there, which is very scary indeed. I honestly didn't expect to reach double figures, let alone triple, so we'll see how that goes. But for episode 100, who knows? Maybe I'll do Centurion. That classic uni game where you have to do 100 shots in 100 minutes. Generally 100 beer shots, because otherwise basically your liver would explode and you would just bleed out. But yeah, when I did it at uni, I remember doing it with 100 shots of lager, thinking it would be the easiest thing in the world. Like, obviously shots are tiny, but doing it with lager is the worst idea possible, because you're putting a lot of air into your body in, a very short time. So I think I got to about shot number 40. I don't think I even made it halfway. And it was just too much for my stomach to take. I was then puking straight into my hands, which was a very pleasant experience indeed. And I'm probably not going to be helping things with the bishop at all here with this little anecdote, am I? Anywho, thanks to everyone who commented last week. Massively appreciated as always. And apologies if I didn't get to your comment. Please do smash your thoughts, your theories, your insults, whatever you want to write down in the comments below. Try and smash as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week, next week, what the f is next week? I've actually got no big tech launches at all for next week in my calendar, but it may just be that I forgot to actually add them in there, which wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Or it may just be that everyone in the world has launched their this week, because it certainly feels that way. But anyway, lots of juicy comments should still be coming at your face next week. Expecting quite a few phones to be hitting the doorstep in the next few days. So please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching to the end of this shower of shite. Much appreciated as always. Love you guys. Have a fantastic weekend. And now I'm speaking weird. Woo!